AutoCAD 107, Intro to 3D Printing. Joe Cerrone. I'm going to go through Lab 2. In Lab 2, we're going to build this sign, this Do Not Disturb sign, and our objectives are to model the sign using CAD. You can use either AutoCAD or SolidWorks. In this exercise, I'm going to use AutoCAD to model it. We'll then export the 3D model as an STL. And essentially this week we're going to focus on CAD, and so we'll be doing the CAD applications, and then in future labs we'll start going through slicing and printing. So you can find this lab under Contents, and then we'll go to Lab 2. If we want to look at the document, we can download that. And so it's basically this Do Not Disturb sign, and the way that we're going to run this class is there are going to be a lot of different CAD-based exercises. And so the way the instructions are written, you can use just about any software, but ideally it's a metric drawing. It's 128 millimeters by 55 millimeters. And we'll draw this base. We'll create the geometry for the handle. And then we'll put text on that and extrude that. So let's get started. Switching back over to D2L, we have a student file, and so we're going to download that, and then we're going to open it. And on the student file, we've given you what you need to make this work, and I'm going to go through and show you how we did that. And so essentially I'm going to switch over here to layer number object, and I'm going to select the line command, and then at some convenient location I'm just going to go here right next to it. I'm going to click the starting point, and then I'm going to drive that up, and I'm going to need to get my instructions. I'm going to drive that up 128 millimeters. You'll notice that it tracks with these green lines, and that's caused by this button right here called Polar. So we'll track that up. We'll type in 128, track it to the side, and I'm going to increase this to 56 millimeters. Geometrically it just works better. It's a little bit off the way the instructions are written in the book. Point down 128, and then I'll go back to the origin, hit escape. We can see that the circular geometry is located 15 plus 13, or actually, so we're going to have a 15 millimeter radial circle here, and then outside of that we're going to have 13 millimeters. So if we were to draw a circle, so we're going to offset this top line 13 millimeters, and then we're going to offset that line 15 millimeters to find the center. So we'll go to the offset command, or you can just type in offset 13. Select the line and then the side, and then we're going to go back to offset, and we're going to type in 15. Select this line and this side, hit escape, and then we'll draw a circle, center radius, from this midpoint. And the midpoints are set up with this object snap. It's set for midpoint. And so when we draw a circle from that midpoint and bring that out, we're going to see that it goes 28 millimeters, which will give us this top of the arc. And then what we'll do is we'll use trim. So we'll say trim, enter, and then we'll trim these lines back. We can erase these other two lines. And then we can put a 15 millimeter radius in the center. So we'll just wake up that center, and then we'll bring this out, type in 15. We can draw a line from this quadrant straight across, hit escape, and then we can offset that line 15 millimeters. It's already in the default, so we can just hit enter. And then we go back to our trim command. Trim, enter, trim this, and that. So that creates the geometry for this part. And what we want to do is we want to make these lines into a complete shape. And I like to use polyedit and join. You can also use the region command. I'm going to type in pedit. I'm going to select one of these lines. It'll ask me if I want to turn it into one. I'll say yes, and then I'll say join, put a box around it, hit enter. It'll tell me that it's found 6 segments. And if I hit enter again, hover over it, you can see now that it's one shape. And that's essential when we start to model things with AutoCAD, that you have a boundary shape. Otherwise, it'll create surfaces. We're going to switch over to the text layer, and then we're going to go and create some text. So we'll go over to the text button, and we'll go with multi-line text. And then you just need to put a box in here. And then you can type in what you like. I'm just going to stick with what I have. Video meeting in progress. Do not disturb. We'll spell it correctly this time. We'll highlight this and we'll center it. And then we'll click the green check mark. And the reason that I did the exercise this way was because in order to turn the letters into CAD geometry for extrusion, you have to be in the top view like this. And then turn this into the CAD geometry. I like to use these menus, hide menu, show menu, and then I go to the express tools, text, and then we're going to explode the text. And so to explode the text, you just put a box around it and hit enter. And then you'll notice that the text now looks more like letters. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is to change the perspective for that. And let's do one more thing. You can put a logo or another piece of text on here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to put in one more piece of text. And I'm going to take that text and I'm going to change the size of that. Let's see, to something smaller, maybe 3 millimeters. And green check mark that. And I'm going to move this down just a little bit. And then I'm going to use that express tool again because I want to know which one, whose this is. And so I'll go back to text, explode text, click on it, and now we can work with this in 3D. To do that, what we'll do is we'll go and we'll click on this view. We'll change it from top to southeast isometric. And then I'm just panning and pushing the middle wheel, turning the wheel on the mouse. I'm going to switch over to the blue layer, which is our object layer. Actually, I'm going to leave it on the text layer. We'll do the text first. And then we're going to extrude this. Now you can just type in extrude, excuse me, or we can change over to the modeling menu. And I'm going to change over. To change over the interface, you click on this little gear and you change it to 3D Basics. And then I'm going to go to Extrude and I'm going to select the text. And as long as you get these green boxes that touch all the letters, you're in good shape. And there's a few different ways to do selection sets. If you accidentally get the blue one like that, you can hold the Shift key and click on it to remove it, and it'll tell you one removed. So you want all these purple lines to be, all the purple text and not the blue, to be selected, and then you'll hit enter. And then we'll push this up, and then we're going to go up 2 millimeters. So we'll say 2, enter. Now we'll do the same thing for the base of this. I'm going to switch over to the blue object layer, and I'm going to say extrude. I'm going to select the blue line, hit enter, and then I'm going to push it down in the other direction, and I'm going to type in 3 for 3 millimeters. I'll hit escape, and then I'm going to union this, because right now all of these letters and little pieces are separate, and so before we go into 3D printing it with it, we're going to do what's called a Boolean operation by unioning these together. And so here's our union, and so we're just going to go and put a box around all of these and hit enter. You know it's a good command because it takes up some processing power. And then we're going to save this file for 3D printing. And so we're going to come back here. I'm going to say save as. And then I'm going to have everybody use their initials. And I'm going to save that in my CAD 107 directory as Lab 2. And then I'm also going to export that. And so I'm going to go to the big red A. I'm going to say export, other file formats, and I'm going to choose lithography, and I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to select my sign, and I'll hit enter. And that will then create the file for 3D printing. Okay, that completes how to draw and model this program using AutoCAD.